I went to a Chappell Roan concert a couple of weeks ago. They're going to be laughing because it's all I'm talking about. And I met Kaylee Chappell, afterwards. And she said, which I was chuffed about, that apparently everyone says to her that I am her celebrity lookalike. So...
Congratulations. More important than all the Oscar nominations, all the accolades.
That's what I'm living off of right now. That's like my oxygen right now.
Prepare your ears, humans. Happy, Sad, Confused begins now.
I'm Josh Horowitz, and today on Happy, Sad, Confused, my guest today loves bridesmaids and delivering Oscar-nominated performances. She's the one and only Saoirse Ronan. This is your first time on the podcast, officially, Saoirse.
I'm excited because we've known each other for so long, but we haven't done podcast vibes before.
This is Podcast Vibes. Welcome to Podcast Vibes with Josh Horowitz.
Cheers.
A lot going on. I've seen both of your new films. We're going to focus on the OUTRUN. We'll give a little tease on BLITZ. They're both excellent. First of all, I did see Kristen Wiig the other day, by the way, and I thought of you. This is like an association always in my life.
Good. How is she?
She's good.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
She looks great right now.
She looks great. She's in Will and Harper, this amazing new documentary, which you need to see.
I was just speaking about it before we started this interview.
It is so good.
Yeah.
So we've talked about it. You've talked about your love of Bridesmaids for years. Why does the resume still tend towards alcoholism and the Blitz?
When's the shift gonna happen?
I love what you're doing, but you contain multitudes. We know this. We all do. You would think you have manifested something more in the Bridesmaids universe by now.
Correct. I mean, no one's asked me yet.
What's going on?
So ask me. No, I think I do wonder if artistically, when you're sort of veering towards one tone or you're in one world a lot, that makes you yearn the other, the opposite. And I feel like comedians do it as well. I mean, you know that you'll meet so many comedians in real life and they're usually actually quite serious people, or they're not like jokes all the time. So I don't know, maybe it's to sort of create that balance. That's why I do both. But I'm sure I've said to you before that like comedy is the thing that I think is the most difficult thing to nail. I don't think anyone can do it just because they love comedy. I feel like I'm always going to be better in comedy if I do my own accent or if I do like a silly accent, which I haven't really had the chance to do yet. I did it a couple of years ago in something which I loved. Really, I just need to do it with Kristen. She needs to be my mentor.
What did you watch on the plane over? What are the last couple of movies you watched?
You know what I started watching was Hacks.
Oh, yeah. I'm a season or two behind. I saw the first season. I think I saw the second too.
Well, I'm only on season 1.
Yeah.
I only started. And I was just saying how impressive it is with women in comedy and female characters in comedy TV shows in particular, how much more ahead they are, I feel, than movies.
Well, this also leads to, look, we're going to talk about the current movies, but like one of the other, not to always say like this, you should also be doing this Saoirse, because you're doing great. Don't get me wrong.
Thanks. Doesn't sound like it.
No, stop it. But you've never done TV either. You've never really done like, I want the Saoirse Ronan Mayor of Easttown. I want you running around.
Me too. But this is the thing. I would love to do something like that. I'd really love to do a True Detective, actually. I think that would be amazing.
Like truly in the True Detective universe? Like
yeah, I think that after Jodie Foster's one, which I just thought was the best one by far. I mean, I loved them. Love the first one, but Jodie's one is just so incredible. I would love to do something like that. And I love TV. I love when it's a mini series where it just feels like it's an extended movie. Yeah. Like if the right thing came along, I would absolutely jump into that role for sure.
One of the beauties of True Detective is it's always about the pairing. Who do we pair you with?
Kristen Wiig. It's like a buddy comedy True Detective.
It was such a good idea until the end. We were getting somewhere and then it just went off the rails. Okay, let's talk the OUTRUN. The OUTRUN's fantastic. Congratulations. Thank you. Do you resent in a way though that you have to credit Jack Lowden a bit for getting this one into your universe?
Yeah, it hurts. No, I'm so pleased that it came from him, because I think whenever there's a piece of material that's given to you by someone who knows you so well, professionally and personally, you're always just going to take more of an interest in it and give it more time. And I think because he knew my reasons for wanting to do it and sort of how I felt at that point in my life, I felt ready to explore that particular topic. It sort of felt like it fell into his lap at exactly the right time.
The topic being a woman at a crisis point dealing with addiction issues. It started as a book, so I would imagine you encountered it first as a book. You don't sit you are a producer on this. This is the first film you've produced. So what's it been like to kind of encounter something first as a book and then shepherd it through the development process?
It's a process, and it takes a long time, and it's, as the Italians say, it's like piano piano. So it's like little by little you're sort of forming a vision, and then the more you include other people in that greater vision, the more complex it becomes.
Right.
And everyone has to be heard, and you all need to sort of make sure that you're on the same wavelength with it and you want the same thing, but still be open to critical voices and to accept that the project at each stage will change. Like Tim Bevan, the producer, told me when we were in the edit for the OUTRUN, and it was obviously mine and Jack's first experience being so kind of intimately involved in that stage. You're trying to figure out what this movie is going to be, and
right.
it naturally sort of shifts. And he said to me that the really interesting thing about the editing process is that that's where the film decides what it will be, and it kind of goes beyond what you had planned for it.
And not to mention, for those that haven't seen it, structurally this is an unusual narrative. You're not going from A to B to C.
No.
So yeah, what was that like? I don't know if you're the kind of actor that hates seeing themselves on screen, but I would imagine you've probably had to watch yourself more in the production of this than you ever have before.
I have, and actually I think it's been a really valuable experience for me to go through that, because I've never enjoyed watching myself. I definitely think when I was younger, a lot of it was down to like insecurities and just feeling self-conscious as well. Like no teenager who's like awkward when they're growing up.
Teenager. Yeah.
No, nobody wants to go through that for an hour and a half, 2 hours. But also I just, I was still finding my way, and I think I'm able to separate work from myself a little bit more now. And I think going through the process of editing the OUTRUN, even though I didn't watch the dailies, I wouldn't watch playback on set, I was able to see it as this sort of objective thing. It was I needed to keep the project in mind as opposed to like my own ego. Yeah, which was good for me, I think. It's
obviously always a touchy area to touch on alcoholism, which touches literally all of our lives, whether it's us or family members or friends. And you can't help but relate it to your own personal experiences. I would imagine like at some point in the process, you're like, oh wait, I'm also gonna have to a degree, talk about my own relationship with alcohol in this kind of silliness too.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a thing too. But I guess what was on your mind as you approached, we've seen like all manners of stages and different degrees of alcoholism depicted in film forever. Did you have in your mind how you wanted to approach it, what you liked seeing in film, what you didn't like seeing in film when depicting that? I
saw more of what I didn't like in film and TV. I think a drunk a lot of the time is sort of turned into a bit of a joke or a caricature. And I think it's a really difficult thing to get right. And I understand why, because when you are drunk yourself, if you drink, you're so unaware of your behavior. It's not like you can draw from your own experience because you're not
inhibited.
Yeah, you're not there, you know. And to be honest, even speaking to Amy and other people who were in recovery, it was almost like it was the things that were so bad that stuck in their head. But like that sort of day to day, just regular drinking. It becomes so a part of the habit that you're not going to remember, and the whole point is to just sort of blank everything else out. That's why you do it. So I had one reference point really, and that was Stephen Graham in The Virtues, which was an incredible. I'm really surprised how many people have seen this BBC series.
I actually haven't. I mean, Stephen Graham comes up all the time, but I've never seen that.
Yeah, well, you should watch it. It's like, I think it's a 4-parter, and it came out a few years ago, and a friend of mine who's in recovery said if you want to watch someone authentically portray an alcoholic, especially at that moment where they take that first drink and they spiral throughout the night, this is the one to see. photography, and there's this incredible continuous take that goes on for like 15, 20 minutes, and you watch him go to the pub, have his first drink. It's really fun to begin with, and then it just slowly gets darker and darker. And I just went back to Stevie Graham every single time.
I would imagine that given the way you talked about that, where you're going to come down on this. But I've talked to actors, not many, but some actors that have said, I've experimented with drinking if I'm playing drunk, just to see what it's like.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever done that at any point in your career?
You mean
to literally have a
offset?
drink? Yeah, to literally, I'm going to be a little drunk to play drunk in this scene.
Yeah. I mean, what I did before we started shooting, I didn't want to drink on set, but what I did before we started principal photography was I just went out and I had a big night, but I kept my awareness on, even though I started to get,
or even had friends and family kind of clock you, I would imagine, be like, what am I like?
I think like I said to Jack, like, keep an eye on the way I am. Yeah. But then it's also trying to combine the way I am as someone who doesn't have an unhealthy relationship with it. Yeah. And Amy's own life and all of her sort of testimonies about that experience. And then also people close to me who I've seen go through it. And actually there was a really interesting moment, which I only saw when we were editing the film, where we've all seen it when people go past the point of no return with drink, and I always call it like the red haze that goes over their eyes, and they're just not there anymore. And it's horrible to see someone go through that. And I hadn't even necessarily set out to bring that up in the performance, but there's a scene where I'm in my mom's house and she turns the light on and I'm on the ground and I've like made a mess everywhere, and I stand up and I look at her and I've got that look, and I didn't even realize until we watched it back like 6 months later. And it really, that's why I did want to make this film, and that's why it was important for me as someone who has been, you know, really affected by it to make the movie, is that I think it's quite disarming to see a young woman in that state. It's something that's so stigmatized. It's not talked about enough. We're kind of desensitized, I think, to male alcoholics. And I think to see this in a new form really catches people off guard. Yeah. And even for me to see it, when I'd only seen it mainly in men, that really knocked me back, you know.
Where in the list of unusual skills you've picked up in your career does delivering lambs fit in? I would imagine this wasn't something on the list. Like, one day I'm gonna
you know what I want to do
add
one
that
day?
to the TV.
Kristen Wiig and I, right?
It's a reality show. We're just exactly.
There's some sheep. Yeah, I mean, that's like the most insane thing I've ever done, and the most amazing thing. Like, it was terrifying to do it because so many different thoughts are going through your head. You can't practice it. You can't rehearse it. Right. Like, it's just happening and you have to do it. So I watched a few farmers deliver lambs, and then it was my turn, and it would be at like 5 a.m. in the morning on the farm where Amy grew up. And Kyle, who's this 23-year-old like farming consultant, was off camera, and he would just sort of tell me, okay, get in there. Okay, don't let go. Keep pulling. Okay. Right. And then when you get the lamb out, you've got to swing it really sort of aggressively and almost like violently, and the whole point is to clear its airwaves so that it comes to life. So it's sort of, it appears as if it's lifeless when it comes out, which was really terrifying, but an amazing experience to essentially bring life into the world and then give this little baby to its mother and watch them just trot off. It's incredible.
Now you're ready to go next level, human beings. Some kind of horrible situation.
I'm ready.
Airport situation. She's going into labor. Yeah. I need help. Can anyone do this?
Me. But I like tackle the woman to the ground.
Why is she swinging the baby?
Yeah. No. No, stop, no.
Look, being an adult definitely has its perks. You can eat ice cream for dinner anytime you want. No one's going to yell at you. You can even see a movie by yourself if you have the time. But also, it's not all fun and games. You have to do your taxes, you have to figure out what's for dinner every night, and it can't be ice cream, actually. Plus, you have to make doctor's appointments. And for that one, luckily, at least there is ZocDoc, our sponsor, and happy, sad, confused. ZocDoc is the healthcare app that makes adulting that much easier. ZocDoc is a free app, and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors. You can choose the right one for your needs and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every conceivable specialty: mental health, dental health, eye care, skin care, and much, much more. Plus, you can filter for doctors who actually take your insurance, are located nearby, and just are a good fit for any medical need that you might have. Plus, doctors that are highly rated by verified patients. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen very fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. I've used ZocDoc, and I recommend you try it too. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/happysad to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/happysad. ZocDoc.com/happysad.
I want to tease a little bit on Blitz because it's early, because many people have not seen this yet. But this is Steve McQueen, and this is
Steve McQueen.
This is, legit. This is an amazing filmmaker.
Have you seen it?
I have seen it.
Yeah, you've seen it.
And it's kind of, I think people are going to be surprised in some ways that it's kind of like Spielberg meets Steve McQueen to me.
Yeah.
I haven't really talked to anybody that's seen it, so you're my first, the star of the movie.
Yeah.
What struck you about? I mean, he's on the list for every actor to work with. What was the Steve McQueen experience like for you?
Well, I was no different. I love a break, and I love not overworking. And I said to my agent, the only person that I will come out of like semi-retirement for, which I tend to do a lot, is Steve. And luckily he was putting this project together. And I remember when I heard about it, and I heard it was going to be set during the Blitz, it was going to be the Second World War in London, I thought, to my shame, but I thought, oh, we've done this, we've seen this a lot, and such beautiful depictions have been done, but like I don't necessarily, it's not something that I'm drawn to.
Right.
And then when I sat down with him, because I auditioned for him, he has a very specific process, and it all has to feel like it's coming from an authentic, true place. So we spoke quite a bit before he actually gave me the role. I did singing lessons. We discussed the character together. The script was still coming together. So luckily for me, through those earlier conversations that we had, the sort of building of the character was very influenced by my own experience with my mother and who I am as a woman and my relationship with children and, things like that. So it felt incredibly personal. And, I think Steve has said that he wanted to make something that had heart. He wanted to make something that everyone could come and see.
Yeah.
And he's done that so brilliantly. So
and for those who don't know, this is essentially the Blitz through the eyes mostly of a child, your child in the film. I keep thinking Spielberg. I think of like something like Empire of the Sun as a reference point for me. Which is another classic.
Yeah.
For you, working with a young actor, obviously you've been doing this your whole life. Is that a surreal kind of thing, a full circle moment to kind of like be the elder to another actor?
It does feel sort of full circle, but in a really lovely way. And I don't think I've ever been one of those actors that's like, I've got to step in here and be a leader. I always find that a bit uncomfortable. But when you're working with young people, especially when they're as young as Elliot was, he was 9 when he did it. He'd never done anything before. He'd never been on a movie set before. I think it was so important that there was at least one person there that knew what he was going through and knew what that experience was like so intimately. And I was just his pal. Like, I don't even really feel like I behaved like a maternal figure to him. I felt like we're friends, and we were co-workers. And I'm really glad that he was able to work with someone who really just saw him as an actor and wanted to look after him, But he was incredible. And I think, again, what I love about working with children, I work with children quite a bit, is that everything they do comes from the heart.
Purity, right,
it's so unfiltered. And it makes you step up. So when you've sort of fallen into bad habits over the years, when you start to become aware of what this skill is that you have and how you can use it, kids aren't there yet. So everything is just so pure, and it makes you become very, very present as an actor.
Well, I am interested in that in regards to your own career, because I've talked to so many actors that started out as child actors and did or didn't transition well into adult roles. And there does seem to be, whether it's a perceptible point or not, early on you're kind of relying on instinct.
Yeah, completely.
You're you in a moment created around you.
Yeah.
And then as you proceed in life and your career, presumably there is more technique. So I don't know, do you see a shift? Like, it might not have been one moment or one film, but you must see a progression for yourself from naturalism to technique, but hopefully retaining that naturalism.
Yeah, what was interesting is that a few weeks ago, I was at the Telluride Film Festival for the first time, which is just the greatest film festival in the world. And I was lucky enough that they honoured me. And so they did a tribute to my career, essentially. And they included clips from almost every single movie I'd done. And so to be able to see all of these films, to watch me sort of change and grow was really interesting. I think that it's a very gradual thing. You're soaking up so much from one film to the next. But there's definitely, I can remember that there was a massive shift between what I did in my teens and what I was doing when I was sort of 19, 20, 21. Right. When I was around that age, Greta put it really well recently, because I was speaking to her about it, that I became aware of the skill, and that's actually quite overwhelming. I don't know how other child actors have experienced that, but I found it to be quite jarring, and I was very, very self-conscious. And it was the only time in my life where I felt slightly crippled by the presence of a camera. It didn't make me feel invincible anymore in the way that it always had done. And so with Brooklyn and with Lady Bird, I was painfully aware of everything I was doing, how I looked, how I moved, how I sounded. But then once I'd gone through that process with these two incredible directors who really changed me as an actor, then I was able to go, oh, okay, I know how to use these tools a little bit better now, and I can kind of play it almost like an instrument. And the instinct is still there, and that fluidity is still there, but you're able to sort of mate the two a little bit more harmoniously. And that's the sweet spot.
Also in the middle of that sequence, if I'm getting my timeline right, is Crucible on Broadway.
Yeah.
Which I would imagine is also
not needed.
Just
didn't help.
Really?
No, it did. Of course it will have helped. But, my ego took a beating, because I'd spent my whole childhood being the one kid in these movies where people were like, she's good, isn't she?
Yeah.
And Elliot's receiving the same sort of attention. And it's great, because it makes you feel invincible and really confident. But then when you become an adult actor and directors are expecting you to be great, that's the bare minimum, is that you're great, you have to sort of reimagine what work is, the goalposts shift a little bit and it becomes work. It's not just a thing that I do anymore. It's my job.
It's fascinating. Okay, so let's do a few more of the greatest hits, if you'll indulge me. So Atonement, which we've, of course, talked about before, and I actually just saw McAvoy a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking a little bit about it. You were, 11 or 12 when you 12 when you shot that. So your understanding of what that film was as a 12-year-old versus now, how much did you grasp of what it was? You were obviously a sophisticated 12-year-old, but you're still 12.
Yeah. I don't think I could truly understand the weight of the subject. I couldn't, that couldn't sink in.
Sure.
Because I was a kid. But I do think, and I was so well protected. I was in such a safe environment. I wasn't exposed to anything I didn't need to be exposed to. Joe Wright was really good with that. Peter Jackson was on The Lovely Bones as well. Right. But I do think it must have had an impact on me. I feel that there are things that frighten me now that must come from being in that world for a couple of months at a time. And it wasn't that I wasn't protected. I really was. I had my mom with me the whole time and stuff. But yeah, it was very much sort of in the moment, you know, which I think was great. It was sort of just like playing the one scene that I had to focus on that day. I couldn't think of the bigger picture. And to be honest, that has sort of stuck with me in terms of my approach to work. I find
focus on the day, the moment, the scene.
Yeah, I find it very hard to think about the bigger picture when I'm in one scene.
Well, it helps because the character's also thinking about that moment. They're in that moment.
So that stayed with me for
sure. Is
it
saying too much to, I mean, you're alluding to like fears that have kind of like you connect to that experience that still are with you to this day. To say what that
I
is.
just think that like even if you don't fully understand what pedophilia is or rape or, you know, sorry, this may be a little too intense, but like it's there.
Sure.
It's in the air.
Sure.
Because it had to be. I think a lot of young women, it's a fear that we carry every second of the day.
Yeah.
But that was something that was in the background when I was quite young.
Right.
So I'm sure that will have had an impact in the way that, like, you know, working on other movies that I did that were completely lovely and
Lovely Bones too in that regard, I would imagine. I mean,
yeah, probably Lovely Bones more so.
Yeah.
But you know, you take the rough with the smooth, I suppose, and that's what I love about it. I think once you're in a safe environment and you feel protected, then the whole point of your job is to keep yourself open to all of it, and that's why I really admire actors the older I get. I think it's incredibly courageous what actors do to come into the center of the room and go, hit me with everything and I'll give it right back. Like that's quite amazing. So
James admitted to me that I asked him like what movie makes him like cry or gets emotional. He actually said Atonement, like his own movie.
Oh my God. James.
Classic.
It's funny,
James.
this scene that I did.
I killed it.
I was so heartbreaking.
Are you able to cry at your own movies?
Yeah, actually, yes. J'agree. No, I know. I mean, Atonement would probably make me cry now. I think if I watched Brooklyn again, it would make me cry.
I mean,
I re-recorded the audiobook for Brooklyn recently because it's the 10-year anniversary, so it's coming out soon. And reading the text just like killed me. And to have the movie in my mind and to remember my state of mind when I made it and how vulnerable I felt and how scared I was to go home and not do a good job, and I wanted John to be happy with what I was doing. Like, it was all just so overwhelming. And yeah, that really makes me cry. So I do know what James is talking about. He's not wrong.
I discovered also in the research, I'm sure you're aware of this. So he said one of the characters he played in Glass was inspired, the voice was inspired by how you sounded during the making of Atonement.
Yeah, I've heard this. I haven't seen
Do you
Glass.
take that as a badge of honor? Or I guess you haven't seen it, so I mean.
Well, yeah. Did you do a good job?
I need to go back to the tape, actually. I don't know which
bet you
character he's referring to.
I mean, yeah, that's so lovely. I mean, James McAvoy was one of those people for me that really took care of me.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I wanted Elliot to feel like he had his pal as well, because I had that with McAvoy on Atonement, and in the years that would follow whenever I would see him, and even if I'd see him now, it's the same with Benedict, it's the same with Juno Temple. Like, there's a connection that you have to these people who really took you under their wing, and you never forget them, you know. So he's always been someone who's been very special to me.
So around, if I'm getting my timeline right, around Atonement, I know you've talked about this before, maybe we have even, you had a kind of a close brush with Harry Potter, Luna Lovegood.
I know. Fiona Weir didn't give me the part. Damn it.
Did you come close? Like, how close did you come to getting it?
I doubt I came
Really?
close at all. I don't think I was the right age.
Okay.
And also, Ivana Lynch, like, couldn't have been more perfect for that role.
Did it color your love of the movies afterwards? Were you able to enjoy
It's
it?
like so resentful.
I mean, I could understand it to a degree.
No, I wasn't. I think with every audition that I did, I always convinced myself that I wasn't going to get it, which is like stressful, but also I think it's a better way to just deal with that stuff, because then you're not as disappointed. So I never expected to get it anyway. I think I felt really honoured that I got to read a scene from Harry Potter, because I grew up with it. And I told Emma that years later, Emma Watson, like, I like grabbed her by the shoulders one day and I was like, do you know what you mean to us? What your movies mean to us? Yeah, it was just amazing to step into that world, you know, and it's still affecting so many people's lives. And now there's Harry Potter World that we'll go to like every year.
Have you been to Wizarding World? Do you have your wand? Have you got?
I have my wand.
Course,
yeah, I have my wand. I want to go back for Halloween this year.
We mentioned Lovely Bones, which is such a great opportunity, obviously. Peter Jackson, the book was a bestseller. It also had, a lot of people probably won't remember this, Ryan Gosling, who you got to know later on.
Yeah.
Did you shoot with Ryan for a bit? Like, had production begun with Ryan Gosling and the Mark Wahlberg role?
Okay. It hadn't begun. We'd done some prep.
So was that disorienting and kind of scary as a young actor? Like, if Ryan Gosling can part ways, like, anyone's like up for grabs in this? Like, what was that?
I didn't think of it like that. I think I just loved Ryan and his dog, George. And was just sad that, you know, he wasn't going to be around. But I think the reasons why they parted were totally valid. And I have spoken to both now, and it happens, do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not personal necessarily. It's like sometimes you're just not on the same page. And it meant then that, you know, Mark was able to step in, and he was a father. He was a father to, like, I don't know, 3 kids. And he probably had an experience of that Ryan felt like he didn't. Ryan was like 27.
Yeah, he was playing.
He was young, like. Yeah. But it was great then to work with him later. And again, he's just like the same. He doesn't change.
Do you ever have that moment in a production where you think, whether realistic or not, I'm going to get fired, I'm not right for this?
Yeah. I had it with Brooklyn, and I had it with Lady Bird in particular.
With Lady Bird?
Yeah. It was awful. Like, I honestly, my mom flew over at one stage because I was so anxious. I don't know if Greta knows that, actually.
How deep in was it, and how did you recover?
I didn't recover.
You just got through it.
I did not recover. I did, like, after we finished.
So what was that about? Why do you think that was? Because obviously what we see on the screen worked very, very well.
I think that, like, it was kind of what I was saying, that it was a time where I think for any person in their early 20s, kind of like when you reach your early 30s as well, there's a shift. There's like a shift in your life, in how you are with people, your social situations. You're usually moving away from home. You're going to university, or your hormones are all over the place. Like, it was just, everything was just sort of in flux. And I'd spent about 10 years at that stage being like the kid who just had to like do like a decent job, but was lauded as like, oh, aren't they great? And then to step into the role of like a true leading actor, there's a lot of responsibility. And I felt that. And I think because I was working with John Crowley, who is such a brilliant director anyway, but a brilliant Irish director, and then working with Greta, who I was just a huge, huge fan of, like Kristen Wiig level fan. I really wanted to impress her, and it was her first job. It was her first film on her own, and I was essentially playing her, and it was a comedy of sorts, and I was in my head about that. So I was still young, you know, so it was stressful.
You know, funnily enough, I think when I started to get to know you and talk to you a lot was, of all things, for like The Host. We did a lot of stuff for that film.
Yeah, we did.
Right? I remember.
Did you come to set for that?
I was in Albuquerque. Lovely Albuquerque.
Love that place.
Might be the windiest set I've ever been on. We shot outside with you and Max. I'll never forget it. I mean, looking like that was kind of one of your one and only films that was like, you know, attempting to be in kind of the franchise world.
And it did so well.
Well, look, I don't know if there's a lesson there or not. I mean, you tell me. Like, did you approach that for, in retrospect, the right reasons, or did you connect with that material as much, or were there kind of things in your ear like, I need to do this kind of thing at this point in my career?
I think I've always needed to connect to the material in some way. I think there's been varying degrees of like, I don't know, alignment, I suppose, with you and the material. Yeah. But there's always had to be a connection. And I think for me, what the host gave me was a challenge in terms of like playing two different characters at once and trying to differentiate the two. And that was interesting to me. And I knew that was going to make it more difficult for me. I always wanted to remain awake with everything I was doing. I needed to be sort of smacked across the face by every job and be like, come on, you've never done this before. See if you can do this well. So I always knew that was going to be the challenge there. And I loved it. And like, you know, the experience that we had on that was really great. And I'm still really close with Jake Abel and his wife and Megan Hibbett, who produced it. And so it was a great job for me. You know, I was 18. I was away with like younger people. I'd never really done that before, apart from a couple of other things. So I feel like every job, regardless of how it does once it's been released,
you take away some things.
It gives you something. Even if it was like the worst job in the world and you hated every second of it, something about having to keep on keeping on adds to you as a person, which was not my experience with the host.
I get it. Yeah. So, okay, well, we mentioned Lady Bird and Greta, who obviously you worked with since, and Little Women. So close on Barbie, so close.
I know, I was almost in it, but I was doing the OUTRUN.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to Timmy also about how close he came to doing that one as well. You were going to be Weird Barbie? I
was going to, naturally, I was going to be a Weird Barbie.
Was your take on Weird Barbie much different than Kate McKinnon's take on Weird Barbie?
I don't think I would have been Kate's. I think Kate was going to be there no matter what. I was just going to be, there was scenes that we were going to have that weren't in the movie, which I was happy about. I was happy she didn't give them to someone else. Timothy and I, like, it's taken us a long time to get over the fact that she's made a film without us. We're not pleased.
I talked to Timmy and I was like, you know, are you the lion, the witch, or the wardrobe in Narnia? Because obviously
Mr. Tumnus now.
People have said.
He's got to be.
What's your role in Narnia? Are you angling for something?
Yeah. I've said to her multiple times, I'm like, I'll be in the next one, whether you like it or not. We just love each other so much. And it's a really special work and relationship that we have. And it's also really lovely to be in each other's lives still now that I'm getting older. Because as I said, when we met, I was this young adult who was very much a young adult trying to be an adult, and to sort of grow with her over the years has just been the best.
Well, now, look, I mean, you're a producer now. You're
I'm a
entering
producer.
a new stage in your life. No, but I mean, in all reality, it's true.
Yeah,
it does feel like, and again, not to chart your own career for you, but the Ken movie combines all your loves. We get Gosling, we get you, we get Greta.
Yeah, is she going to do that? They're not going to do that.
We haven't officially heard anything, but they've said. I mean, there's whatever. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
But it was about girls.
I got you. I'm not saying let's do the dude movie. The dudes had their movies.
I loved watching Ryan, and I have to say.
Are the Broccolis aware of your James Bond villain campaign that's been going on for a long time? I think we've spoken about this many times.
I'm afraid to say it to her in person. I know her a little bit.
You do know Barbara Broccoli, yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't.
You would be amazing, and they've never done like the young female main villain thing.
And I think like her and Bond don't get together or anything.
Of course
she's
not.
a villain.
Yeah,
like Javier Bardem vibes.
What's your affectation? Do you have like an eye patch? Do you have a cat?
A limp.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know, but I'm conscious of being blonde because I feel like a lot of villains in movies, they're always like, make them super blonde and
so you want to continue that trend, or you want to go the other way?
No, I'd want to bright. It's whatever. Honestly, it's whatever Barbara wants. Whatever Barbara wants to do, I'll do.
Here's a tough question: if it can only be you as a Bond villain or Jack as Bond.
That's a very difficult question.
It's kind of the worst question that I've ever asked a human being, but go for it.
He should be Bond. If it's a choice between the two.
That's so selfless of you.
Isn't that nice?
You are
that
an
I've
amazing
done that?
partner. Wow. Yeah. Can you set the record straight for me on one thing?
What?
Were you offered Yelena? Did you almost play Yelena in the Black Widow, the Florence Pugh role in the Marvel Universe? Was that a discussion?
How did you hear about that?
It's out there. It's been out there.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, I'll take that non-answer as an answer. But you have nothing against the Marvel stuff. It's just like if and when the right thing happens.
I can't see myself doing Marvel.
Really?
I don't. No, I would prefer to do Bond.
Okay. Well, you are proof, and it's a rarer group than ever of folks that don't necessarily need to go that route to have and if there's something wrong with it, but
There's nothing wrong with it, and I think they're brilliant films.
Yep.
I want to do more big movies. Like, I am at the point where I love making independent film. I really do. But to know, especially in this landscape that we're in film right now, to know that a film is going to be seen is such a luxury. And so when we made Blitz, knowing that you were putting all this work into something and like it was going to get a release, people were going to see it, people were going to talk about it, is great, you know. And there's so many films that you'll do where
you pour everything into it, and
and maybe no one will buy it, and it's no reflection on the quality of the film at all. It's a very hard time to know what's what, I think, in the film industry. But I think especially after seeing Greta make Barbie as well, like, I want to do that. Of course I want to do that stuff. I like big shows, and I want to be in a musical, and I want to do all that.
Yeah, so there's more singing and dancing in Blitz than people might expect.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah, war epic, but with show tunes. We have quite a bit of music. We had other numbers that haven't made it in. I wouldn't call them numbers, but like musical scenes. But yeah, the music is sort of the beating heart of the film. And there's some like amazing surprises that you'll see along the way, which it just sets it apart. He just knows how to do something other, you know.
But to your point, what you were saying, it must, for an actor or filmmaker, it must be such an amazing experience when like you make something and it's satisfying and it's great and it finds an audience or not. But like when something touches culture, it's like Lady Bird, for instance, which obviously no one could have imagined it would have been what it is. But like that's almost an addictive thing to chase. Like, oh, I want films that will connect with people on a profound level.
You do, and you don't. I don't necessarily have the need to make a movie that like has a message or anything. I think a great film will contain enough authenticity that people will find their own story in it, and it should be different for everyone. And I think even with the OUTRUN, it's amazing how, which I didn't expect, there is no one demographic for this. I've had middle-aged men come up to me. I've had young women my age. I've had women in their 40s and 50s and 30s. Like, it's amazing. But with Blitz and the OUTRUN, this is probably the first time ever where I've been like, no, I actually really think it's important that people see these films, no matter what they think of the end product. Yeah, it's commentating on the world that we live in, the pressures that are put on us, our warped view of history, that I think is really essential for us to be talking about right now. And they're also great movies. Like with Blitz in particular, what Steve has done so brilliantly is that he's made a movie. Like
it's a movie.
It's entertainment, you know.
We talked about films you've seen, an actor you're currently obsessed with. Who do you want to manifest a collaboration with that you haven't yet?
With an actor?
Yeah.
You know who's just come into my head, who I just love, is Sebastian Stan. So love Sebastian Stan. He's
killing it right now. Have you seen the Trump movie?
No, I can't wait. I can't wait.
All right, let's end with this. The happy, sad, confused, profoundly random questions. Saoirse, are you ready?
No.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Yeah.
Easy.
Got one, right?
Stella, yeah.
Do you collect anything?
Dogs.
Just the one. That's not a collection.
Just one.
It's a budding
She's got
collection.
everything I need. Do I collect anything? No, I don't think I do.
Okay. What's the wallpaper on your phone?
It's myself and my best friend.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Last actor you were mistaken for?
Oh, okay. This isn't an actor, but I'm going to bring this up anyway because it's really cool.
Love it.
I went to a Chappell Roan concert a couple of weeks ago. They're going to be laughing because it's all I'm talking about. And I met Kaylee Chappell, afterwards. And she said, which I was chuffed about, that apparently everyone says to her that I am her celebrity lookalike. So
Congratulations. More important than all the Oscar nominations, all the
It is.
accolades.
That's what I'm living off of right now. That's like my oxygen right now.
It occurred to me when I was looking back at all our conversations, the most viral thing I think we ever did was when you did like your different accents in a Taylor Swift lyric. If we were doing it today, it would be Chappell Roan.
I die for Chappell. I live for Chappell. She's the best.
Worst note a director has ever given you.
Worst note a director's ever given me? Where do I start? When a director, so we have like call sheet sides for anyone who doesn't work in movies, which is like all of the scenes that we're going to shoot that day, and they'll have stage directions. When a director brings you onto set and goes, so you're gonna burp, 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 and they just read out what's on the page, and I'm like, yeah, no, I've got that. I can read that. It's the context that I need. When they do that, I'm like, get out. Get out.
In the spirit of happy, sad, confused, an actor who makes you happy, always. You see them on screen, you're happy. We get on Kristen Wiig.
Wiig.
Okay. Stupid question.
Always.
Movie that makes you sad. Compose yourself.
Brooklyn actually makes me sad.
There you go. We call that a case of the McAvoys.
And
Yeah.
Brief Encounter. Oh my God, Brief Encounter makes me so sad.
And a food that makes you confused.
There's something that I tried in Japan sea urchin.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what I think about that.
Wait, I wonder. I need to go back to the tape. Jack might have said the same thing. Is that possible?
Mm-hmm. He had like an out-of-body experience when he tried sea urchin.
Yeah.
And I was on board.
You were.
I like
not sea
sushi
urchin.
a lot more than him.
Yeah.
He's very Scottish. He's like, the consistency's weird.
Right.
I'm
You're a
like
little more adventuresome.
I'm more cultured
Yeah,
than
we
he
all
is.
know that. Yeah.
But the sea urchin for both of us was a very strange experience.
Segueing back, thank you for doing the podcast finally. I always love our chats. I've known you half your life, which is insane to think.
That's mad.
Isn't that mad?
Yeah.
Congratulations on the OUTRUN on BLITZ. It's the fall of Saoirse. It's every fall is Saoirse season, but this is true Saoirse season.
Truly, yeah. Thank you.
It's good to see you, buddy, as always. Thank you.
Thanks.
And so ends another edition of Happy, Sad, Confused. Remember to review, rate, and subscribe to this show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm a big podcast person. I'm Daisy Ridley, and I definitely wasn't pressured to do this by Josh.